Guys, it happened. It is here. It is out now for us to consume. If you've been a regular listener of the show or a watcher of the show over the last 18 months, you'll know that I've been talking with the clubhouse leader in terms of appearances on the TUSC pod, the legend, the ABS, the Aussie boxing scribe himself, Anthony Cox. We've hinted and we've teased at an unbelievable project that he has literally spent 7 years working on. It is here, right there, guys. The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns, all about diving into the rich history of Australian boxing through the 70s and 80s. Guys, I've got mine. I can't wait to read it. It's just been released today. So when you see this, I will have already read it. We'll be talking about it on the pod. We'll get Tony back on the pod to talk about it. Don't worry about that. But it is available globally on Amazon.com for you to all enjoy. The link to the book will be in the description of this episode, so click away. And if you do, not only will you be reading and consuming a fantastic boxing-related piece of literature, but you'll also be supporting one of the best guys in the sport globally. So available now, guys, The Brawl at the Sydney Opera House and other Aussie boxing yarns.
Let's go and move with life. Let it go. Something new tonight. Let's go and move with life. Let it go. Something new tonight.
All right, well, here I am joined by a returning mate of the show that has experienced the sport from more angles than most. From his early days with Jamie Meyer to working corners locally and at world title level, managing fighters, and now matchmaking with Tasman Fighters. And literally now coming to us from the car on his way to the airport to pick up a fighter. Back once again, it's Matt Clark. Matt, thanks for giving me a buzz from the car, mate.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me again, mate.
So who did you say you were going to pick up, sorry?
I'm actually going to pick up Pat Farrell, who is the manager of Taylor Genson. He's flying in from England. So
okay.
He'll no doubt be tired, but I'm sure we'll have a couple of beers and he'll be right after a couple of those.
Perfect, mate. Sounds like a good Sunday, Arvo. But, mate, let's get into it because we're about a week and a half removed literally from Australian history. Liam Paro becoming the second Australian to win world titles in a second weight division, beating Lewis Crocker for the IBF welterweight title. Matt, you were there live in the building. We'll get into the fight itself, mate, but you witnessed history. Did it feel in the building, in the arena? Did it feel as important as we know that it is?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, it's obviously through my eyes and my experiences, but I was certainly aware of, what this fight meant to, obviously to Liam, but in terms of Australian boxing history as well. And yeah, I thought my personal opinion was that Liam boxed really, really well. And I mean, look, I wasn't ringside, so that I'll give that caveat straight off the bat. But I actually had it wider for Liam than what the judges did. So I haven't managed to watch it back yet, but I thought Liam fought a really smart fight, got out to an early lead, and whilst Crocker sort of closed the gap towards the end, I thought it was more comfortable than what the judges actually had it.
Yeah. And did the way it played out, was that sort of what you're expecting going in?
I must admit, I didn't really know what to expect because after Liam's previous fight at welterweight, I had sort of some slight doubts about whether he was still more effective at 140 than at 147. But so I went into that fight not exactly knowing what to expect. Crocker is a tough, rugged fighter, doesn't take a backward step, probably not the most skillful. I think there's a fair rap on him. But Liam showed all of his skills and, at the end of the day, as they say, skills pay the bills, and Paro got the win.
Yeah. You just dropped out just at the end there, Matt. What was that? Sorry, mate?
Oh, sorry. Apologies. I was just saying, like, at the end of the day, I thought Liam showcased his skills and his boxing IQ, and as they always say, skills pay the bills, and Liam got the win.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I gave up trying to score it because I was just too nervous and I was barracking too much. So I was like, there's no point putting my little little numbers down on this bit notepad in front of me because I'm just in full barracking mode at the moment. But God, how's that? Two world title wins in two just friggin' absolute wars. One day, hopefully, he'll get an easier matchup. But yeah, congratulations to Liam and the team. And we'll just shout out to Stephen Edwards too. The way that he kept the swelling down off Liam, like I thought Liam's eye was going to completely close in those final rounds, but somehow he's a bloody wizard with the end swell and what he does. Stephen Edwards in the corner. So shout out to him. I thought he did an amazing job. Getting Liam over the line in those last rounds when the sort of damage started to really look like it was having a big effect on him. But a massive team effort for Team Paro. But, mate, obviously Liam's going to have to, well, we would think he's going to be on the sidelines a little bit recovering. But what sort of, if you had to put your manager and matchmaker hat on, which we'll get into a little bit later in more detail, but specifically for Liam, Matt, what would you sort of be pointing him towards next if you sort of had a little bit of a say and control?
Well, mate, to be honest, he's in very good hands. Obviously, he's promoted by No Limit and he's got Ange DiCarlo managing him. But look, there were rumours prior to the fight about a Manny Pacquiao fight should he win. And look, I've got to be honest, if that's somehow achievable, that's what I'd be doing with him because that's where the money is. It's as simple as that. I believe he's got to face a mandatory, but I think he's got 10 months to do that. So that obviously gives him enough time to fit one more fight in between before he has to fight Paddy Donovan. Paddy was the loser against Crocker in the last in Crocker's previous two fights, and they were hotly contested fights, and many people thought Paddy Donovan won. So it's certainly not an easy fight for Paro. But look, if that Pacquiao fight is available, I would be saying that's the way to go.
Do you reckon they could do Suncorp again if that was to come off?
Why not? Why not? Whether Manny wants to go back there is another question. But
10 years later, now he's
exactly
fighting the
right.
sparring partner. That's amazing.
Oh, that's exactly right. He's probably got PTSD from the last time. But look, I don't know. I don't see why not. Like if Pacquiao's to come back over here, he's still a massive name, and everyone knows who he is, obviously. And why not roll the dice and go with Manny at Suncorp again?
Yeah, wow. When I sort of heard whispers of that rumor during that fight week, and I was like, surely this can't be real. But sort of the more time's going on, the more sort of validity, I guess, there is to it. That's wild to think. But I mean, if it could happen in any sport, of course, it's going to be boxing, eh?
Exactly right. Like, mate, expect the unexpected in boxing. Yeah. Eventually the unexpected becomes the expected in boxing. So when I read the rumor, I was like, yeah, that probably makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's weird when something just like standard happens, isn't it?
Exactly right. It doesn't happen too often. But yeah, look, I mean, why not? Like, I suppose, Manny's got the name, and more importantly for Liam, he brings the money. So I think that's, at the end of the day, these guys are fighting for their family and financial security. So I think you've just got to go with where the money takes you.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love that as a biased Australian. I'd love to see Liam just get a huge payday. And if that's with Pacquiao, round two at Suncorp, I mean, hell yeah, that'd be unreal. I'd actually try and make it up there this time. I didn't get to do it 9 years ago, whatever it was. But that'd certainly be a good excuse to get up to Queensland and get in some proper weather and get out of bloody this hellhole Melbourne that I live in. But that's a different conversation for a different podcast.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to Liam Paro and the whole extended team. And also, Matt, did you happen to watch the Xander Zayas Boots Ennis banger a couple of days later?
I sure did. What a fight, mate. That was, look, it was, in retrospect, you could probably argue it was a mostly one-way traffic sort of fight, but it was fun as it was unfolding. I think it was that third round when Zayas really got into Boots and sort of had him on roller skates. But Jerome Ennis, I thought, as strange as it sounds, I think he kind of felt comfortable in a firefight with Zayas. So maybe wasn't the smartest thing to do, but those gym wars that I'm sure he's had over there sort of probably prep him well for that. But geez, it was fun to watch.
Oh yeah, how did you see it going beforehand? Like a lot of people were picking Boots, and fair enough. I was kind of a bit of a contrarian. I liked Xander's chances in that fight, which I was obviously massively wrong. But what were you thinking going in?
I actually bet fairly heavily on Boots by stoppage. So,
Okay.
yeah. So in that third round, I was having conniptions, mate, because my money was going down the drain. But look, I probably overlooked Zayas a little bit. So I'll meet you halfway. But look, I was confident that Boots would just be too sharp for him. And through 2 rounds, obviously, I looked like a genius. But it was almost like he got so comfortable just standing in front of him that he sort of allowed Zayas back into the fight. But yeah, I thought he regained control relatively quickly. And yeah, great fight, tremendous fight. And Zayas will come again. He's only young, so he's got a big future.
Yeah. My thought process going in was like, Boots is so athletic and he's so unique. And he kind of does his own thing. He's not like that methodical sort of a textbook boxer that's going to start with the jab and then put the right hand behind it and then the left hook after that. Like, he's just going to do wild stuff. Like, if I had to try to explain like the Boots Ennis system, I really couldn't. I don't really understand it. It's not what what we learn over here from day one in the gym. Put your hands up and tuck your chin and all this sort of thing. But it works for them, and it's obviously super effective. And the guy is like offensively as gifted as it gets. But I sort of thinking back to the old adage, you box a fighter and you fight a boxer. It's like, well, if you're going to beat Boots, you can't really like outfight him. You can't out wild him. You know what I mean? You're not going to out power punch him. So I'm like, well, how do you do it? You probably need to be as big as him, with a really good fundamental, stick on the jab and sort of do it slowly over time, which I thought Xander kind of could employ that sort of game plan. But to your point, he got way too aggressive early. I mean, it was great for us. It was an awesome fight. And luckily I didn't bet on this fight. Yeah. So otherwise I would have been still crying about it. But all credits to Boots. And, he impressed me so much, and he's always been impressive offensively, but I always thought he was hittable. And he was in this fight. Xander landed shots in every single round, but even still, Boots' defense impressed me more than it has in other fights. Like, as you mentioned, that third round was crazy, and Xander was really finding a home for the left hook, even in the rounds he was losing. And I think it was around sort of the midway in the fourth round, Boots still didn't really change his posture at all, but he just kept tucking that chin a little bit more behind the shoulder and getting those left hooks that were landing a few rounds earlier when he was buzzed. They were bouncing off the shoulder. I was like, Jesus Christ, how do you teach that? That's just, incredible instinct. So both guys really went up for different reasons in my estimations. I was epically wrong on my prediction, but I mean, it was such a great fight. I was happy to be wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, look, Boots, I wouldn't describe him as a slickster or anything like that. As you said, he's there to be hit, and he does get hit. He ships a bit of punishment, but that's kind of part of the allure of watching him, I feel. Like, he's a sharp shooter rather than a slickster. And, while he still wears a few shots, I think, as you alluded to, he sort of got his eye in defensively as well after that sort of crazy third round. I'll still say it's the third round. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going off of memory here. But, I feel like he sort of, as you said, tucked his chin down a little bit more and sort of ended up getting him out of there. He's fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the sky's the limit. And if we're talking about that, well, I'm sort of doubling down on my incorrect prediction. But if there's a guy that I think can catch him down the middle, more textbook style that I thought Xander could, and obviously was ultimately unsuccessful, maybe it is Virgil Ortiz if he can get his out of ring carry on together and get all situated and get back in the ring. But what a mouth-watering fight that would be, Matt. My God.
Sign me up for that, mate. I can't wait to watch that. Look, at the end of the day, I feel like some of the most exciting fighters, or the most exciting fighters that we watch, are the ones that are somewhat vulnerable. Like, I would rather watch someone that, it's not an absolute certainty that he's going to box your ears off for 12 rounds. Like, I can appreciate the sweet science, don't get me wrong, but I really enjoy watching someone that, sometimes comes a little bit unstuck. Even today, Bruce Carrington, I thought, showed a little bit of vulnerability towards the end of that fight. And that's where the fight really gets exciting for mine. So, mate, Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis, sign me up.
Yeah, 100%. And, mate, on the undercard, what did you make of Emiliano Vargas?
Yes. I have seen him before, but that was one of the first times I really tuned in and paid attention. very, very impressive, I thought. Obviously got really good lineage, perhaps some of the best. But I was impressed with him. He was sharp, measured, yeah.
Yeah. And if that's one of the first times you've seen him, he's not actually a southpaw.
No, I found that out later. So, yeah, credit to him. But, mate, good boxing IQ. I enjoyed watching him. He certainly made a bit of a fan out of me anyway.
Yeah, a couple of episodes ago, I had Lyndon Hosking on the pod, and he was telling me that a couple of years ago he was over in Vegas and he got to watch the 3 Vargas boys all spar Jorge Linares.
Oh, wow.
And he said that at the time Emiliano was 18, so I don't know if he turned pro yet, or if he did, it was only very, very early in his pro career. And he's the smallest of the brothers and the youngest. And according to Lyndon, he was like, mate, Emiliano did not take a backward step. He goes, Jorge Linares was putting it on him. And he goes, this kid, this 18-year-old did not take a backward step. And he goes, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yep, that kid's a world champion. So that's high praise.
Mate, very high praise. And I still say, like, some of those spars that you get to see in gyms, like, honestly, they're if not as good, if not better than the fights that we sometimes see. So that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Oh. Well, mate, I have to thank you publicly, because the most elite thing I've ever seen sparring-wise ever in my life, I haven't got to see a lot of, up close, high level sparring, but I tagged along with Anthony Cox one day, and I believe you set up the invite for Anthony to go to the gym in Melbourne before the Devin Haney George Kambosos fight, and Jai Opataya got to spar someone. For 6 rounds, and that was the most elite thing I've ever seen. So I've told that story on the pod heaps of times, so I'll never ever forget it. So I have to thank you publicly for letting me tag along and making that happen, mate. So
no worries at all. That's easy. Yeah, it was with Jason Waitley, who obviously fought a world title eliminator against Matthews Masternak, and Waitley was an Olympian himself, and a really, really good operator. Still fights in the bare knuckle now, so he's a tough man, Jace. But yeah, watching those two go hammer and tongs at it, mate. Like, you'd pay admission money, I feel.
Oh yeah, it was. I will still never forget it. I was mesmerised. But and funnily enough, all those years ago, I had you on a pod. I think I looked up the last time was about 4 years ago, Matt. So it's been too long between drinks, mate. And I remember I asked you about Jason Waitley on that fight, and I remember you vividly saying, mate, the guy would fight his grandma. He just loves fighting. So it seems pretty fitting that he's ended up in bare knuckle now.
Mate, he is a tough man, Jason. He's a lovely fella, great guy. Doesn't box too much these days. He runs his own gym down in Ringwood there in Melbourne, and but yeah, still involved in the bare knuckle. And mate, honestly, one of the toughest blokes I've ever met, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, unbelievable. But yeah, the future seems bright for Emiliano Vargas for sure. And
sure does.
Mate, what did you make of Ben Whittaker as well? There was a lot of fanfare, mainly coming from Eddie Hearn, as you would expect, hyping up Ben Whittaker. I mean, he certainly delivered with a great performance. He's almost 30. Is it time to step him up significantly? I kind of think so. But what did you make of Ben Whittaker's second round knockout of Richard Rivera?
Mate, I was impressed. I think Whittaker's a hell of a talent. I know he sort of came unstuck on one of those fights against Liam Cameron, I think his name was, from the UK. And yeah, but I feel like he's improved again since then. And like, he made Rivera look really second rate. He did exactly what you've got to do with a guy that probably isn't on your level, and he blasted him. So I think we're probably about to get an order from the IBF to put together Connor Wallace and Ben Whittaker for the vacant spot. So watch this space. There's a little tidbit for your listeners.
Oh, mate, that is amazing. Yeah, Connor Wallace has been in line for a big fight for quite a while now, and geez, that'd certainly fit the bill. And we're going to get on to the July 10th show with Max McIntyre, the Money Show, and more specifically about your time with Tasman and matchmaking and all that type of stuff, just in a little bit. Matt, but you've thrown the nugget out, mate. I have to have a go at that. But what are the chances? So would that be like a purse bid sort of situation to see who would promote that fight? Or is there a negotiating period? Like, how would a fight between potentially Ben Whittaker and Connor Wallace get negotiated?
Yes, so you're spot on. What happens is the IBF send out an email to all parties. And, say you've got X amount of days to negotiate. And, the fight must take place before this certain date and all that sort of stuff. So, and then it'd just be between Tasman Fighters and Matchroom to come up with a deal. And if a deal can't be struck, then it goes to purse bids where anyone can bid on it, theoretically.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got a good working relationship with Matchroom, and I'm sure that Eddie probably wants, I'm assuming Eddie wants to probably put that on in Ben's hometown, which I believe is Birmingham in England, and we want to put it over in here in southeast Queensland where Connor's big. It's just going to be, look, it hasn't been ordered yet, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. I think last time I checked, the IBF ratings are due out in a couple of days, but last time I checked, Connor's 2 and Whittaker's 3, and 1 was Michael Eifert, who just got beaten by Bivol, so 1 will be vacant.
Wow, yeah, that is unbelievably exciting. And hey, the Aussies have got a pretty good track record recently of beating Matchroom in purse bids. So
that's right, exactly right.
not out of the question that we get another home field fight. So.
Exactly, and look, Connor always brings a crowd, and I'll maintain Connor Wallace is one of the most exciting fighters, certainly domestically, but further afield as well. Like he is always entertainment. He sometimes boxes down to the level of his opposition when he's too good, which probably, makes it even more exciting. He says himself he's Irish and he just loves to fight. I think that sums him up pretty well. He's always entertaining.
And I haven't had the pleasure, but I'm sure you have. But it seems like if there's an after party you want to go to out of any fighter in the country, it's probably a Connor Wallace after party.
I tell you what, I try and avoid Connor Wallace after parties. I don't mind partying. It's just when they go for a week. That's all.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, mate, I never even put 2 and 2 together. I never even realised that as a possibility. So that's wow, you got my head turning now, mate. Hopefully that comes off. That would be so exciting and a massive opportunity for
huge
Connor.
Opportunity.
Fantastic.
Yeah, huge opportunity. But look, it hasn't been ordered yet, so we'll just wait to see what happens. But I feel like that's going to come in the next few days. I'm pretty sure. So exciting times, and let's see how it plays out. But to answer your question, I was impressed with Whittaker's performance. I felt like his opponent Rivera probably tailor-made for him. I think he had sort of heavy feet, like slow feet. His hand speed wasn't there, so Ben was beating him to the punch, and obviously his footwork was tying him up in knots, and he was walking him onto shots. So, mate, I won't knock Whittaker's performance. I was impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I thought the stoppage was a bit premature, but it seemed like it was going to be heading that way no matter what. So, New York's a fairly conservative, medical body or whatever.
Governing body, commission, yep.
They always sort of seem to pull things up on cuts and stuff like that a little earlier than most other places, but the writing was on the wall. But but how good was that show, mate, the Zayas Ennis show? Like, with the inclusion of Saudi Arabia, and the sport has certainly got much more global the last couple of years. Wasn't it it was kind of nostalgic, I thought, but it was so good for, because America lines up so good for Australia with boxing Sunday lunchtimes. Wasn't it great to get a great American show that delivered from top to bottom on a Sunday lunchtime in Australia? It felt like the good old days again.
It did, mate. It was a bit of a throwback, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously boxing's gone fairly global. Or even it's always been global, but it's certainly the shows are, coming in from different areas, whereas I think when I was a young fellow, it was basically America, and, that was it, I feel. It was a bit of a throwback in that regard for sure. Even my old man watched that fight, and he called me up saying that's one of the best ones he's seen in years. So, I think everyone got their money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an awesome show. And today, mate, we're recording this just about an hour or two after the Abdullah Mason world title defense against Albert Bell. That card has just finished. Let me get that up here, mate. What did you make of Abdullah Mason's? Oh, hang on. Abdullah Mason's performance. I'll just unplug the thingo. There we go. That's plugged back in. Technical difficulties on every episode. I apologise. What'd you make of Abdullah Mason's performance today, mate? Bit of a slow start, but he got it done in the end.
Yeah, I was impressed because I actually, here's one for you. Like, I actually had a small bet on Albert Bell on points because I really rate him. I think he's a good boxer, and they sort of brought this up on the broadcast about who's affected by the late change of opponent more. And I think they hit the nail on the head when they said it's Abdullah Mason. I think, Bell is, I think, 6 foot? He's rangy. He can, move his feet. So I had a sneaking suspicion that Bell was going to get off to that good start like he did. But credit to Mason, he had a game plan of just working the body, and it really paid dividends. He may have probably headhunted a little bit too much early, but he was still digging to the body. And then it seemed to be like a few of those rounds there from maybe 7, 8, 9, I can't remember, but they were almost exclusively sort of body attacks, and it really worked. It slowed him down. And, I mean, look, I thought the stoppage was premature, but but look, again, the writing was probably on the wall, so...
Yeah. I was actually pretty surprised. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never seen Albert Bell before, ever. Or if I had, it was ages ago, and I've just Snapchat memoried it. And I didn't even do any YouTube research when it got announced that Joe Cordina was out for knocking out that bloke in the street, as you do apparently. But maybe the guy deserved it, maybe he didn't. Who knows?
Exactly.
We'll let the courts decide that. But he lost the opportunity at a world title because of it. But so I didn't even look him up or anything. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to watch his card and I'll sort of see what I see. So I was surprised how big he was. But also the biggest thing that struck me early was within the first couple of seconds, I was like, man, Abdullah Mason adopted that super wide stance. I'd never seen him. He obviously wanted to have a low base against a taller guy. It looks like he was in sort of a counter-punching position, but his feet were just so wide and he was coming up short. But to his credit and to his team, after a couple of rounds, they shortened that up. He moved his feet on the way in before he punched so he could start making contact. So although it was a slow start, he did work his way out of it with more than just, if someone just tuned in for the first time watching boxing, they'd be like, oh, yeah, he just worked harder. Well, he did, but he also did it technically as well, which I thought was really impressive for a young guy.
Yeah, he did. The corner did well as well, I thought. There wasn't too much panic from what I could hear anyway. So even though sort of Bell obviously got out to that early lead, they were pretty calm and composed in Mason's corner from what I could hear and decipher. But, he had his wide stance, which sort of negates your power, obviously. But you hit the nail on the head, Zach, where I think he's just trying to lower his centre of gravity a little bit and stay out of Bell's shots early. Bell actually came out with, when George Kambosos fought Devin Haney the first time around, they used Albert Bell as one of the main sparring partners. So that's...
I didn't know that.
So I've been aware of that for a while because I was looking after Dana Cool, and Dana got invited down to that as well, and he was sort of raving about Albert Bell. So he's one I've kept an eye on purely because of that. I thought he gave a good account of himself too. I'm keen to see him go again as well.
Yeah. I thought there's, as you mentioned, mate, the stoppage. It's come on, the guy did so well. He was in the fight. It was really close. He wasn't knocked down super badly. It didn't look to me I don't want to be a masochist, but geez, you got to let the guy fight on, I thought. But
he knew exactly where he was and he knew what was going on. Obviously he was running out of gas more than anything, I thought. It wasn't like he was getting sort of, battered from pillar to post, so to speak, in terms of his head bouncing around everywhere. But I mean, look, fighter safety does come first. I'll always say that, but you could sort of tell by Albert's reaction that he wasn't impressed either. So I don't know. I think in a fight of that magnitude, it's a world title fight. I haven't seen the cards. I don't know who was up at the time of the stoppage, but it was close. That's how I felt it. I'm sure everyone felt it was close. I felt he deserved to, either go out in his shield or hear the final bell, whichever happened.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, mate. And now, Matt, most importantly, you're in the car now. So I'm assuming before you get to the airport, you're going to swing past the Mason Brothers pop-up shop and buy a couple of T-shirts?
Absolutely.
Mate, all he wanted to do was sling merch during that post-fight interview.
I love that. Look, if there was a pop-up shop on the way to the Brisbane airport, I probably would stop in. I'm actually wearing a Roberto Duran T-shirt now, so I am a bit of a sucker for merchandise.
And lightweights.
Exactly. Although I think there's a little bit of a difference between Roberto and Abdullah still at this stage.
Fair observation. But, mate, also a guy you know pretty well, Bruce Shushu Carrington, defended his title in the co-main against Rennie Palacios. Mate, when Dana fought Bruce, were you still involved with him for that fight?
No, I wasn't. But
Okay.
yeah, look, in retrospect, Danny gave a great account of himself, and he was on a huge card. You can't take those memories away, and obviously, I'm certain he would have been paid quite well for it too. But yeah, Bruce, I thought today, I don't know, I would like to have seen him go through the gears a little bit more. Maybe he was worried about the power that was coming back at him. He obviously got hurt in the 11th round to that body shot, I should say. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you felt watching it. I'm going to sound like a gambling degenerate here, but like in round 5, I actually called up the betting agency and said, "Oh, I'll have 50 on Carrington on points, thanks," because I just couldn't see him with the urgency. I beg your pardon, not round 5, round 7, but as it ticked into the second half of the fight, I just didn't see that urgency that I was hoping to see, and I feel Carrington's one of those sort of guys that if he doesn't get you out there early, he's probably gonna let you survive. So, yeah, I felt like that's what we saw today. Look, he's still young. He's a hell of a talent, but yeah, I just thought there was a little bit of vulnerability there towards the end of the fight, and I wonder if his opponent sort of wishes he sort of upped the ante a little bit earlier than when he did, but yeah.
Yeah, and also worth noting too that Carrington's always been very complimentary of Dana, talking about his skills and really rates him as a fighter too. And I believe that should be the only loss on Dana's record. I thought he beat Jake Wiley, and I thought he beat that Argentinian bloke as well. So, but I'm probably biased because you introduced me to Dana a few years ago and gave me a T-shirt, but I was already a fan before that. But it made me even more of a fan. So.
Mate, he's a skillful kid. He's a great kid. He's a lovely kid. So yeah, wish him all the best.
Absolutely, mate. And what did you make of the no knockdown call? So if anyone hasn't seen it, Bruce Carrington got hit to the top of the head as he was weaving underneath a shot from Palacios and got hit with the punch on the top, the crown of the head as he moved. The commentary was split. The referee, Harvey Dock, called it a slip, which was kind of a weird interpretation. If anything, it should have been called an illegal shot, not a slip, because he got hit and fell to the ground. But what did you make of it in real time, Matt?
Mate, all I'll say is I thought it was a knockdown in real time.
Yeah.
Like, the replay certainly showed, technically it's, to the back of the head, but I feel like he's probably caused that by the way he was moving as well. Look, let's just say I've seen him given. In fact, I was surprised when it wasn't given. So, yeah, look, I mean, technically, you could argue the technicality that it's behind to the back of the head, therefore it's an illegal shot. I don't have an issue with that if someone wanted to take that stance. I certainly wouldn't die on the hill. But I feel like I've seen them given plenty of times, but, he's probably the hometown fighter in that regard, or he's the A-side fighter. So, that's boxing for you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I agree. In real time, I thought it was a knockdown, and I guess like there's so many moments in boxing where things happen, and I don't, as a fan, don't even know what the rules are, like, or how they're interpreted. Like, so yeah, I guess that's a question for a ref. I'd have to ask, because I know that, because isn't it when if you throw the punch, and during the trajectory of the punch is at a certain target, but between you throwing it and landing, the opponent moves their head and it lands in an illegal position. They can't call it an intentional illegal punch. So I was like,
correct.
But what? Yeah, if it's a,
and that's what I felt happened. I felt like he was just throwing that hook up from memory as a right hook, and I felt it was a fair knockdown. Really, I was surprised when there wasn't a count. Let's put it that way. What it wasn't was a slip, that's for sure. But in Harvey Dock's slight defence, I feel like, when things are happening a million miles an hour, he probably gets his words mixed up there or, signals the wrong thing. But, I felt it was a knockdown.
Yeah, me too. And just as a side note, a couple of years ago, I contacted the Victorian branch of the AMBF because I wanted to pay them to go and sit in some like rules meetings and just to learn more for myself,
Yep.
Like not do the courses or anything, but like I'll pay them and just sit up the back, won't record it, but just to so I could understand more things about scenarios like this. And I chased him and chased him and chased him, and they gave me all these different emails and all these different phone numbers, sent me down this rabbit hole, and eventually I just gave up because it just got too hard. But yeah, what a shame, because I would still love to do that. But that's probably more of a blight on Victorian governance in general. But
yeah, mate. It's pretty difficult down there, I'm told. So, well, from my experiences, they've been pretty difficult.
Mate,
I won't even go into that. But anyway, that's another. How long have you got left on this podcast, mate? Because we could talk about it for the rest of the day if you want.
Oh, I've got to start a political pod. I didn't vote for it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, look, I don't know why they don't, because like at the end of the day, if you've got a genuine interest in the sport, which clearly you do, they won't have anything to hide. So why would it be an issue, I should say, to open it up to people to listen in on and gain a better understanding of our sport? I feel like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Oh, mate. And I was going to pay them. But
yeah,
they just didn't want it, so whatever.
No, doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, weird. But anyway, mate, did you catch the Tiger Johnson fight as well?
I did. I watched all the undercard, actually.
Yeah. What'd you make of Tiger, mate? That was my first time seeing him.
Yeah, first time for me too. Just trying to remember his opponent's name.
Christopher Guerrero.
Yes. Yeah. Mate, fairly impressive. I thought he boxed well, didn't he? Yeah, I was impressed. That's the first time I'd seen him. Yeah, looked pretty sharp. I'd like to see more of him.
Yeah, and mate, we had now it's Derek Davis here. They were calling him something else on the broadcast. I can't remember whatever his nickname is, but Derek Davis here on the Box Rec results fought the Ecuadorian Carlos Ramos.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Mr. Ramos. He got the short end of the stick, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I wasn't scoring it round by round. I will give that sort of caveat before I go into a rant. But I feel like, look, at worst, I felt that's a draw at worst. I felt he worked him out pretty well, and yeah, I didn't think Davis did enough. But I don't know. I think a classic example of sort of the guy that's expected to win. I think he was $1.06 or 20 to 1 on or whatever they were calling it, favourite, sort of getting the result. And I don't see how he got the decision, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy, and there seems to be, I guess it's always been there, but really lately, especially lately, I should say, the last couple of years, the judging all over the world just seems to lean towards whoever is moving forward the most.
Yeah, I agree with that, which is a shame because, look, effective aggression is one of the scoring criteria, but the key word is the first word, effective.
Yeah.
And I feel like just marching forward and eating plenty of shots like Davis was, that's not effective. Look, he did some good work to the body, but I felt like he didn't have a great sense of urgency himself at times. And, I felt like his opponent from Ecuador there won the fight. I thought he was sharper. He outpunched him. He outworked him. Boxed beautifully off the back foot. Walked him onto shots. Like, I thought it was a really good exhibition.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree, mate. But yeah, I wonder what's going on with that judging. It seems to be a sort of like a worldwide, well, except Japan. They don't fall into that trap in Japan.
No, Japan, they don't. Well, I mean, did two of the judges have it 78-72?
78-74 twice.
78-74. Okay, I must have misheard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I can't see how Davis won the fight. Like at worst, I had it a draw, but again, I'm not there scoring it like ringside. I'll say that, but yeah, I don't see how he won the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully he's rewarded with another opportunity because he certainly deserves one. But, mate, let's move on to this coming Friday, July 10th. Tasman Fighters are back with the money show. Let me get that up on BoxRec. Max McIntyre in his first headline show against Diego Ramirez, a replacement for, what was his name? Bodan Sobol?
Bodan Sobol, yes.
Broke his rib. Yeah, now you matchmake this in. Did you do the entire card, Matt?
I did, yes.
You've done quite a few of the Tasman shows. You've all matchmaked, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Mick will certainly help out where he can, and when things pop up, he'll handle that. But yeah, he pretty much gives me free rein, mate. So it's fun. It's not my money to spend. So happy days.
Excellent. We'll get on to the matchmaking specifically just in a sec. But this card altogether, the main event, mate. I want to talk about Max because, and I need to give you a shout out, and I have on the last couple of pods as well because his last fight that you matched with Tszyu, I thought was one of the best pieces of recent domestic matchmaking I've seen. I thought it was I never would have thought of that fight just from someone sitting on the couch who, watches the fights on the weekend. I thought it was the perfect fight, the perfect opponent at the perfect time, and the fight played out that way, at least to my eyes. I'm not sure what you thought. Well, I'll throw it over to you in a second, but, it was like Tej asked questions of Max that Max hadn't been asked before, and to Max's credit, he answered them all. Like, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Was that sort of what you were hoping for when you made that match?
Yeah, Zach, you hit the nail on the head. Like, look, Tej has been stopped for once previously, which was a cut to his ear of all things. He had a slice. His ear was half cut in half, apparently. So when he fought the Korean super middleweight, so he's only been stopped once. So my point is that he's extremely durable. And Max is bowling guys over at the moment, so I felt like Tej was going to be the perfect sort of opponent for him to, make him extend him, and not going to fold like a deck chair the first time he gets hit. And Max said it himself after the fight. He said in the dressing room after the first round, like he just hit him with everything in that first round, and Tej sort of smiled at him or whatever, and went back to his corner, and Maxie sort of sat down, he reckons, and thought, shit, he's going to be here for a while. So, I really don't underestimate Tej at all. Like, I knew he was going to be a tough fight. I didn't think it would be quite as one-sided as it ended up being. I did feel that fight probably could have been stopped a little bit earlier than it was. It was stopped in the 8th. I kind of felt like the writing was on the wall, probably from 5 or 6 onwards. But yeah, I was proud of Max to show that he could comfortably go 8 rounds. He could have done 10 that night, 12 that night if need be. But Tej is one tough man.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that was a fantastic match. So, yeah, congratulations for thinking of it and pulling it off. It was brilliant to watch as well. That wasn't the main event of the card, whatever it was on, but that was my main event anyway. I know Coxie, shout out to Anthony Cox, the Aussie Boxing Scribe. We were both, we were talking to each other on the phone leading up to it. We're like, man, this is the best fight on the card. We can't wait for it. So that was so much fun. But, mate, you matched Max up with Sobol, who hurt his rib and had to duck out a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And how hard was it to find a replacement opponent now with Diego Ramirez?
Oh, very difficult, mate. Like, it's honestly, we are lucky that it happened, a few weeks out rather than like a few days out. But yeah, it's stressful. Like, I was ready to go to bed that night and got a message from Sobol's team saying broke his ribs, and like, oh God, like, and then you just get to work. You don't go to bed that night. You're on the phones and you're trying to see what's out and about. And mate, we had plenty of difficulties. We had him matched with someone else, Maxie, that we hadn't released yet, but we applied for visas. Visas got denied. So the whole time you're doing this, you feel like you're wasting days, if that makes sense. Because you're trying to find an opponent, you're trying to get everything approved by sanctioning commissions and things like that, and sanctioning bodies. And even after that, a second opponent got denied a visa. We had someone from the States, and we'd agreed terms with them. We'd sent them about agreement. Turned out, that boxer had done 12 years inside for armed robbery, and I'm like, oh, well, you didn't tell me this on day one of talking to each other, so you won't be getting a visa either. So we just sort of wrapped that up there and then, and luckily Diego Ramirez accepted. So, look, Ramirez is, he's fine for where Max is at in his career. He's 31 years old. Ramirez, off the top of my head, he's had 43 fights. Max has had, I think, 10. So, he went 10 rounds with Podrick McCrory, the Irishman, back in 2024 or 3 maybe, I can't remember. So he's been around, he's fought internationally probably 7 or so times, mate, and holds a second round knockout over Bradley Skeet a number of years ago as well. So being a southpaw, Max's last fight was against Tszyu, who was a southpaw. He was preparing for Sobol, who's orthodox, but I think he's going to make Max think in there. So I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. No, well, yeah. What's the problem just with the short 12-year stint? I can't imagine that would be a hurdle, but
Oh, no.
or something to declare.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know, right? I just like my heart sank when they didn't even, like I said, they didn't tell me that. I was watching a YouTube video on the guy and a commentator mentioned it and I went, oh. So, yeah, mate, the trials and tribulations, you get grey hair every day, that's for sure.
Mate, there's more that always the story behind all this stuff is just so fascinating, like that's crazy. But
you couldn't make it up, mate. Trust me, you could not make it up. Even Mick Francis says to me, he goes, mate, you have the worst job in boxing.
Oh, mate, that's unreal. And I don't know if it's officially the co-main event because sometimes the order on BoxRec can be a little bit different. But Irishman Danny Keating's back against Victoria's Gile Wright. Was this a fairly easy match to make, Matt?
It was, mate. It is the co-main event. It's the WBC Australasian welterweight title. Max's fighters for the WBC Australasian super middle. He's making defence of that. So, yeah, we've got 3 title fights, all WBC Australasian. Max, Danny and Taylor Genson. Danny versus Joel was the first fight I made for the entire card. Touch wood, here we are in fight week. It's stuck together. So, pleased that's happened. Joel Wright is a tough customer, mate. I'm really looking forward to that fight. It could be anything. Danny Keating, really sharp operator. Don't know if you've seen much of him, but I think both these kids have a really bright future in the sport, and credit to both their teams for just saying, yeah, we'll take that. So sometimes, when you can imagine, mate, when you're putting these fights together, oh, that guy's too hard, that guy's too this. That. I just looked at that fight and thought, that's a great fight to make. And contacted both teams and they both jumped at it. So credit to them.
Oh, awesome. Good to hear. And Tyler Blizzard's back after his loss to Sam Goodman against Sem Japet Anano from the Philippines, who's 8-2. Are you also managing Tyler, Matt?
I do, mate. Yeah, I look after Tyler. Okay. So he's after his fight with Sammy Goodman, he had a hand injury during the Goodman fight, and that's why he's been out of action for nigh on 6-7 months, or whatever it is. So he's had to get his hand right, and credit to him. He's like, I just want to fight real fighters. Like, he's not interested in fighting sort of too many duds or anything like that, like a lot of guys are. This Sam Japet Anano, he's coming off a really good win himself against Tyrell Adams, who has some big raps on him. He beat Adams in his last fight down in Sydney. He really brings it. There's no sort of backward step with Anano. So both these guys, I think they're just going to absolutely wade into each other. I think that could be potentially the fight of the night, actually.
Awesome. And you mentioned Taylor Jensen's back after her loss to Alifna Turhan against Stasia Wyam-Aria. She put in such a brave effort against Turhan, but geez, Turhan's a bloody handful. And back relatively soon, Matt, since that fight. That wasn't too long ago.
No, it wasn't. That was in January, I think January 31st from memory, something like that. And no, she's keen to get some momentum going again. And I was really impressed with Taylor Genson's performance over there in Newcastle, England. She boxed really well. No one gave her much of a chance. She took that fight on, I want to say, 3.5 weeks tops notice. So she jumped in and to sort of lose by split decision against Turhan, who's knocking everybody out, I think really shows exactly what Taylor can do. And she's in a tough fight here. Stasia Wyam-Aria, she is stepping up in weight, but she is a really, really competent boxer. They, again, jumped at this, so I sort of asked them and asked their team, and they came back with an immediate, we'll take that fight. So they must see something there that they like. I think it's going to be a great fight. Taylor's gone on record saying she wants to stop her, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, mate, when you just look at this card on BoxRec, and I will admit, as we get lower down the card, there are quite a few fighters I haven't seen before, but I'm excited to be able to watch for the first time. But, we're always trawling BoxRec every bloody weekend and looking at what's coming up and, past results and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of times, not that you can just go off records exclusively, but you'll see a fight card and, you look at the left-hand column and then, it's all undefeated people or guys with one loss or whatever. And then you look at the other side and there's a hell of a lot of numbers in red, and you can sort of predict what's going to happen. But, mate, you look at this card that you've put together, it's just on paper. Again, a lot of the fighters I haven't down the bottom of the card I haven't seen before, but it looks about as even as you could possibly match up, mate. So are you expecting really, really even contests all throughout the night?
I am, mate. Look, at the end of the day, one of the great things about Tasman is we don't penalise our fighters if they lose. Like, it's, we don't lose belief in them if they have a loss or whatever. Like, we just want them in entertaining fights and fights that they can develop from and grow from. Xavier Fletcher is a perfect example of that. Xavier had a draw in his last fight, lost the fight before that, lost his Australian middleweight title. We went down to Melbourne to fight Dominic Molinaro in his home turf. Like, we didn't have to do that. But we want him to grow and evolve as a fighter. And, he's coming off 2 performances that haven't set the world alight, but here he is backing straight up again on the next card, and he's going up to super middleweight. We sort of, again, like I sort of say, as long as you learn from, any sort of minor setback or even some of your wins, as long as you learn from it, I think you shouldn't be penalised for it. So we've sort of decided as a team and also as a promotional company, look, the strain of making middleweight is leaving some of your performance in the locker room, and he's up to super middleweight to fight Sherwin Watkins from WA, who, off the top of my head, mate, he's 7-3 or something like that. He's a good operator himself. So that'll be a great fight. Freddie Ziwa, mate, if you haven't seen this kid fight, wait till you tune in. He is a wrecking ball. Like, he's an experienced amateur. I think from memory, he's 6-0 as a pro. And look, his six opponents, they're not much on paper. But as some matchmakers will say, like, they'll fight imports because, like, there are 2 different sort of fighters. There are boxers that'll fight imports because they know they'll get a win and that's that. Or there are fighters like Fred who have to fight imports because no one here is going to fight them. Yeah. Fred Ziwa falls into the latter. Now, he's an experienced amateur. He punches like a mule, kicks. I cannot wait to see him. He's fighting Fresco Carcosia from the Philippines. If you go into Fresco's box rec, you'll notice there's a bit of symmetry there. He went over to America and fought Albert Bell. He obviously headlined today's card. Fresco's fought overseas, I think, 6 times. Had a split decision loss in Australia, down in Melbourne many years ago. Fought in Japan 4 times, fought in America. That's not an easy fight. Fred Ziwa, as I said, I think 6 pro fights. This is his first major step up in terms of, like, he's never fought on TV before. He's going to feel that sort of pressure. But, mate, if he connects with Carcosia, that'll be a good night.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Joy Alexander at the Melbourne Pavilion.
That's exactly right. Yep, exactly right. So, and opening the show at this stage is Suleiman Gusha. He's fighting Uten Chenavon. Chenavon is journeyman, but fights everyone. Tough guy. Rarely stopped. I think he's not even, off memory, stopped 3 times in his losses. Suleiman's having his 2nd fight. Huge future ahead of this kid. He's trained by Glenn Rushton, who obviously took Jeff Horn to that win over Manny Pacquiao and beyond. So Gusha is a real talent. He's one to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing him progress.
Yeah, mate, it's quite a nice card, and it is available on Stan Sport again, same as the last time?
Yeah, that's right. Yep, Stan Sport, regular Stan Sport, so it's not a pay-per-view or anything like that. So, tune in this Friday night.
Excellent, mate. That's fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm super excited for that card. And now hearing how difficult it was to keep Max on the card. Congratulations for finding a solution to that, and fingers crossed nothing else, no other banana peels get thrown in your path over the next week, mate.
No jinxing, mate. You're not even allowed to mention it. So.
All right. No, I'll edit that part out. But
no, all good, mate. All good. Yeah, look, I'm proud of the card. I think there'll be some great fights on that card. Like you alluded to, there's some that you can't really predict with any real certainty who's going to win or via what method. So that to me is the sign of a good card. I'm sure we'll see a few upsets. I'm sure we'll see a few knockouts. And style-wise, I'm really confident that we're going to see some wars.
Awesome. No, that's so awesome to hear, Matt. Well, yeah, congrats on putting together what looks like a good card, mate. And I just wanted to talk about specifically your matchmaking, Matt. Do you have like a particular strategy? And also, I realize maybe there's things that you don't want to reveal, and if you don't want to, that's totally fine, mate. But do you have a particular strategy or a particular method to the way that you approach matchmaking, or is it kind of individual for each different fighter?
It's definitely individual for each fighter. What I will say is that you obviously want to put them in competitive fights because nobody likes watching fights that are absolute one-way traffic. Now, there are, if you ask any matchmaker or promoter, there are times where sometimes, unfortunately, it's unavoidable. Someone drops out on a late notice. It's either that guy fights or he doesn't, and you have to make that decision. And we've made the decision often that, unfortunately, the fight gets pulled because the fight's not competitive enough that we can replace it with. But it's not a perfect formula to follow. Generally speaking, if they pass their previous tests, I like to step them up again. You'd like to get, with these young guys, you want to give them different looks too. This one's a pressure fighter, this one's a boxer, this one's a southpaw, this guy's obviously orthodox, but he's got a huge left hook on him and things like that. So you want to see how these guys, each time I feel like it's an individual assessment that you've got to make, but you talk it over with the team and then you go from there. It's not an exact science though, Zach. It's just, I think it's something that, generally speaking, I also look at it as do I want to watch that fight? And being a boxing nerd, if I say, I want to watch that fight, I'll try and put it together. So, that's basically the ins and outs of it.
And are there some trainers that take more, want to have more control over the matching of their fighters than others? How does that sort of relationship between the trainer of the fighter and the matchmaker work? Are some more collaborative than others? Are some do some dig their heels in where others don't? How has that relationship been for you?
Definitely. And again, that's in an individual thing. Some fighters, some trainers will give me a list of guys that they say, well, I think these 5 guys are suitable for where my guy's at. And I might look at that list and strike off, 2 of them immediately because that's not competitive. But I can work with that. And if you've exhausted that list, well, trying to move on to other options. For instance, Jeff Fraser, Max's trainer, when this was this carry-on was happening, they basically sort of said, "No, we don't really care, mate. We'll fight anyone, so just go and find someone." And which I admire because he's got complete faith in his charge. It also happens that I manage Max, so I've got to look at it from 2 different points of view. Obviously I've got my matchmaker's role where I need to put on competitive fights, and I need to also look after Max and see where things are at for him, similar to Tyler and things like that. But I feel like when you've got someone that says we'll just fight pretty much anyone, we've got total confidence in ourselves, go for it. It makes your job easier as well. But by the same token, I've got a responsibility to everyone on that card that I don't want to just, throw them in the absolute deep end. If things got ridiculously difficult finding Max an opponent, I've still got a point where I'll go, well, he's not quite ready for that guy yet. I know Jeff and Max will be we're ready for whoever. Maxie went over to Vegas recently for Opetire's fight against Glanton and ended up sparring with Lester Martinez, the WBC middleweight champion, and gave a hell of an account of himself. But as Max will tell you himself, that's just sparring. And I always think, let's see how you perform under the bright lights before we know that you're ready for that next step. To answer your question, I've done it in a long-winded way. It is an individual thing, and some are really difficult. Some trainers, you're like, mate, your guy is learning nothing from fighting this bloke. This is record padding. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't learn anything. Let's avoid it. And you've just got to sometimes you've got to have those sort of tough conversations. Different circumstances change things. So, if there's a late replacement, like I said, that I can give some leeway there if there's a late replacement. But, it's just, you've got to try and progress these guys. Otherwise, you're doing them a disservice, I feel, because you're padding a record to find out further down the line that they're nowhere near that level. So that doesn't do them any favours at all.
And do you watch a lot of sparring as to sort of have a gauge of where kind of guys are at, or do you just watch a ton of YouTube's like video that you can get? Like, how do you, especially with like obviously Max and Tyler and guys you work with, you're super well versed over what level they're at and that type of thing. But when you're sort of matching guys you're less familiar with, how do you sort of approach that?
Yeah, well, a good example of that is Sherwin Watkins. I've known about Sherwin purely as a name on BoxRec for forever, but trying to find someone to fight Xavier Fletcher, you're going down the list of who's available and who's not, and Sherwin said he was, and yeah, I watched plenty of footage of him because you don't know what you're going to get just because you look at BoxRec and his record says whatever it says. So, you can have these records that look really impressive on paper, but when it comes to it, they're no good at all. Like so you've got a sort of an obligation and also a duty of care to make sure these guys can, are a suitable matchup for whoever you're trying to match them with. And yeah, I watched plenty of YouTuber Sherwin, and I'm like, this guy's a good operator. Like he's a good fighter. This is not an easy fight. So, spoke to Fletcher's team about it, and both teams were like, yeah, we'll take the fight. So perfect, tick the box. But you do end up watching plenty of YouTube or, wherever you can get that footage from. Some of the other sort of countries, like, when you're bringing out Chinese boxers, you need to go further than YouTube and start relying on other contacts, that can get footage sent to you and things like that. So, there are times where, and I don't want to point fingers at people's cards, but like, you bring out a decent fighter from a certain part of the world and, a decent fighter on paper, but it turns out they're just no match whatsoever. And, you can look at BoxRec and it might say that guy's 13 wins, 1 loss, but the reality is, mate, he's terrible. So you do have to do your homework.
And between managing and matchmaking, I imagine both have their fair share of headaches.
Yeah, they do.
Is one way more of a pain in the ass than the other, or are they like pretty equal?
It just depends on who you got on your books, I guess. But mate, the lads I've got on my books, they're great kids, mate. I really enjoy doing it for them and looking after them. And matchmaking, I find it fun. It's just it's Mick's tremendous to work for in terms of like he knows that I do a good job, generally speaking, touch wood. But again, like our last card, we had, I think, 2 or 3 first round knockouts in a row. And he started giving me the side eye, sort of going, mate, what are you doing here? Like, but like that's just the way boxing goes sometimes. And then after that, like I think just about every other fight went the distance. So, and it's not perfect. You can't say this is going to happen 100% because in boxing you're one punch away, obviously from anything. But you can have I feel like it's like looking at a horse racing sort of record. You can have an idea what's going to win the race, but mate, you don't really know until it happens, do you? Like I feel that's the same with boxing. I can give you an indication of what I think is probably going to happen, but
mate, I thought Xander Zayas was going to win.
Well, I mean, I wasn't that crazy, but like, but that's right, mate. Like you can start making cases for certain things to happen. And Mick will ask me, how do you see these fights going? And I'm like, well, this is where I feel it'll go. But mate, I'm telling you, often I'm way off the mark myself and I've matched the fight. So, that's boxing. So that's what we love about boxing is that unpredictability, I feel. Look, if you're matching a guy that's constantly in trouble with the law, not matching, if you're managing a guy that's constantly in trouble with the law or doing the wrong thing or, his heart isn't quite, his or her heart isn't quite in it. Yeah, I feel like that's where it's hard work and I'm not interested in that anymore. I value my time too much. So that's why I only look after a select few guys in terms of management. And I really enjoy doing that. But I feel like matching fights is, just as fun or rewarding. And there are definitely stressful moments doing both. There's no two ways about it. But, at the end of the show, some of those cards that I matched for Opataya when we were putting him on in the Goldie there and, at the end of the show, you look back at the results and you're like, that was a fun card. I'm proud that I did that. Like, that was a great, card to put together and everyone seems to have enjoyed the night. So that's where I get a buzz.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And a couple of fights ago, you've matched Jason Moloney's last 2 fights.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Did having a guy like Jason and I mean, great guy, but a former world champion who's super experienced, did that present any sort of unique challenges in trying to find a match for him at sort of the level that he's at that was different to anyone else?
Just in terms of like people know he's a good operator. So, you'll find people, but it's trying to find people within the budget, right? So like you can go on a box rec and say, I want to match him with number 5 in the world, but number 5 in the world could be asking for 100 and something thousand US. And when you're putting on shows at the Fortitude Music Hall, mate, you can crunch the numbers pretty quickly and go, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it is hard in some ways trying to, shop within a budget, if that makes sense. And, like I said, people will know that when you're fighting Jason Moloney, it's a tough night at the office. So I'm really happy with his last couple that we've put together for him. He's back to winning ways now. I feel like he's got some real momentum behind him again. They weren't easy fights by any stretch of the imagination, and he boxed really well on both of them. So, he's a top level operator for mine.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, love both the Maloneys. And what are there any plans for Tasman coming up for the rest of the year? Are you guys just sort of taking it show by show, or is there like a specific amount of shows you want to do, or a specific venue you want to hold a show at? Like, what can we come to expect from Tasman for the remainder of 2026?
Yeah, well, hopefully I'm not talking out of school too much here, or Mick will kick my ass. But I think we generally just take it show by show, mate. Yep. But I know there are some rumblings of Matchroom putting on a show with us at some stage, possibly. We've also, we've had that working relationship with them before. There's, talk of Benny Marnie getting a big fight with Nikita moving forward, possibly. We're just waiting to see where that one takes us. We're definitely going to put on another couple of shows ourselves in the back end of the year as well. So there's a possibility that we'll be going down to Melbourne. We've signed Chris Tszyu down there. And, possibly putting him on down there. So, watch this space, I guess. But we always look to keep active. But by the same token, we do sort of just take it show by show, because I think sometimes you can sort of spread yourself too thin.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Well, that sounds great. And I have to ask too, it's Tasman related, and yeah, I guess I'll just be open and honest. I've been a critic for sure, and I feel like a valid one of the whole Zuffa boxing experiment, but I don't want to sort of drag you down with that kind of negativity. But I felt like Jai Opetaia was unfairly used as a guinea pig, at least publicly. I'm sure obviously you guys know way more than I do, behind the scenes and that type of thing. But, he lost his world title in what seemed to be a whole mess of a fight week and all that type of thing. But I'm just putting my cards out there. I have been quite critical of Zuffa in that whole situation. I just feel bad for Jai. It's not a place of criticism for me. It's like coming from a place of concern. Like, I want to see him with all those belts. But what's happening with Jai? We haven't heard anything for a good couple of weeks or a few months now.
I think they're working on his next fight as we speak, mate. So,
okay.
That was certainly disappointing the way that all played out. I'm not sure if that situation has completely resolved itself or not in terms of what's going to happen there in that space, whether there was talks of lawsuits and that. I'm actually not privy to where that's at the moment. But I do say, like, at the end of the day, Jai has got every intention of, holding that undisputed title. I think he'll get there. Look, he's got the one belt that really absolutely matters to my eyes anyway, and that's the Ring Magazine belt. He's the lineal world champion until someone takes that from him in the ring. He's the man as far as I'm concerned at 200 pounds. I can't see anyone can argue otherwise. But I notice, in the recent ratings that came out, I think yesterday or the day before, that he's number one contender in the WBC now. So he's also number one contender in the WBA. I'm not sure where he is at the IBF off the top of my head, but I think he's 4 or 5 maybe. But
that makes any sense.
Yeah. I don't know how that works either. But anyway, that's the minute I understand how the ratings all work, mate, is the minute I've cracked the Da Vinci Code or something. So but anyway, no, it's all good. Like, it's a messy situation, but the funny thing is Tasman has still got a good working relationship with the IBF. Like, after they stripped Jai, for whatever reason they've stripped him, and our next show, Moloney fought for the IBF Intercontinental. So you really, I think with these things, you've got to sort of just look at it a case-by-case version, and just put your big boy pants on and just move forward, I think, with each boxer individually. I think if you make, big statements and this and that, that's where you can come unstuck. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jai. I know that they want to put him in with some, credible operators. Like, he wants to fight, mate. It's very difficult when other guys don't want to fight you. However, I've noticed Billum Smith is sort of talking about that fight. That would excite me for sure. Mikalian, the WBC cruiserweight champion, has expressed the interest in fighting Jai. That'd be a great fight. I know the WBC sort of said that he's got to fight, what's his name next, but that seems to have gone quiet.
Yeah, they ordered a defense against Benavidez, didn't they?
Yeah, against Benavidez, and that seems to have sort of gone quiet. I don't know how much money there is in that fight, to be honest with you. I don't know. That's who's going to put that fight on? Like Benavidez's people? I'm not so sure. So, yeah, I think it's going to be watch your space with Jai, but I think we should hear something in the coming weeks.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, there's no doubt in my mind he would have done the same thing Benavidez did to Zerto, but maybe even just quicker.
He'd have done it quick, mate. He'd have done it quicker. There's no two ways about it. Like, I feel like certain fighters are tailor made for Opetaya, and Zerto was one of them. Which is why Zerto pretended to forget what Jai's name was, because it wasn't in his best interest. Like, at the end of the day, I can see why he held on for that sort of all Mexican fight, and he got dished up anyway, so he made the most amount of money he could. I personally feel, I could be wrong, I personally feel Chris Billum Smith's the same in terms of, mate, he'll be lucky to see the 5th round against Opetaya. That's my opinion. Yeah. I think he's just tailor-made for him. That fight's been in the works before, and we never got anywhere. So now that they're under the same promotional banner, let's see if it can happen.
Yeah, well, I've said this a million times on the pod, but a few years ago, this is how long ago it was. I had Michael Tamura on the pod, and we were talking about the fight that never happened with Jai when he was matched up in talks with Bilal Lugani. And I asked Mike, what are your thoughts on the fight? And he just goes, look, it's the best word I've ever heard anyone use to summarize Jai. And I agree with it completely, but every time I use it, I have to give Mike the credit. And he said, look, Jai's just too dynamic for this guy.
Yeah,
it's such a great word, because Jai can just do things that no one else in the division can do. He's too dynamic. When everyone was saying Zerto had a chance, and I was like, mate, he got 12-0'd against Bivol, and the only person in the division that can move like Bivol is Jai, and Jai can punch.
Yes. I agree.
Good luck, Zerto,
he's a natural 200-pounder. He really makes cruiserweight quite comfortably. And again, I've sort of had it depends how you look at it, but either the fortune or misfortune of putting some of Jai's fights together. And, mate, the reality is people don't want to know. Matthews Masternak was the IBF voluntary. We got all the way to first bid day, and they pulled out to go and face Chris Billum Smith. And then he was winning that fight before he ran into that body shot. So what does that tell you? Richard Riakporhe, exactly the same. So these guys, negotiations with Billum Smith himself, these guys don't want to know. You can't force these guys to fight. No one's more frustrated than Jai and his immediate team, I'm sure. It really is difficult, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to see some big fights with Jai start to eventuate very shortly. So watch this space.
Oh, that's great news. And Matt, have you got another couple of minutes, mate? Are you almost at the airport?
Yeah, of course. No, far away, mate.
Oh, good, mate. Well, we've got, I guess it's up to us to decide, but what we're being told by the promoters and the network is the biggest and best fight card ever assembled in Australian boxing history is only a couple of weeks away. Whether we agree with that or not is a totally different, thing. But
it is a good card, though. There's no two ways about it. Whether you need to go with that hyper bowl, maybe they're putting a bit of sizzle on the sausage. But hey, look, it is a good card. There's no two ways about it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the your sort of most sort of fight up for the main event? Obviously, the month of July on the pod, we're going to be talking about this card heaps. So we'll get into a little bit more specifics about each matchup sort of in a couple of weeks' time before the show. But like for me, like I absolutely love the Paulo Acuso fight with Luis Antonio Tejeda, the 12-0 guy from Dominican Republic. That's a fantastic match. Well, what to you on the card is sort of really piquing your interest the most, sort of a couple of weeks out?
Yeah, that's a good fight that you mentioned there. I think the whole card's interesting. In terms of the main event, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to get again from that. You know, Spence has been out of the ring for, I think, 3 years come fight time. Timmy's arguably past his best, perhaps. I don't know. Like, so that's going to have some interesting question marks. For mine, it's the Wilson-Stevie Fulton fight. I'm really looking forward to that. Liam Wilson... Geez, mate, he's never in a dull one. he always seems to be in a tough one. Yeah, credit to him. I'm looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. It is one hell of a card. Look, is it the biggest, the best ever? I don't know. We'd have to get some sort of historian to verify that. But I mean, yeah, I kind of get worn down by, like you said, the hyperbole, mate, and just the over the top, just grandstanding. But I mean, I guess they're doing that not to appeal to guys like us. They're trying to appeal to the broader masses and stuff like that. So I guess that's something
exactly
we got to put up with. But yeah, top to bottom, I mean, Paul Fleming, Ahmed Redder's a banger. Callum Peters is in with a 13-0 guy from Argentina. I've never seen him. He's never fought outside of Argentina. Who knows what's going to be there? But again, Callum Peters is never in a bad fight. Like, it's just bangers all around. Yeah, Liam Wilson's cool boy Steph. My God, what a great fight. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome show. And who knows what the hell to expect from the main event, to your point, Matt. It's going to be super fun. But yeah, one hell of a day. But if I'm honest, I mean, I'm really looking... I reckon the prelims are going to be better than the main card at this stage.
There's a fair chance, yeah. Yeah, there's a fair chance of that. Like, you know, that Paulo Acuso fight, that could be a banger. So Paulo's never in a bad one. I'm looking forward to that for sure. Yeah, I just don't know what we're going to get with the main event. That's my question mark. I feel like if there's one sort of fight where this is personal, my personal opinion, that I don't see being tip-top is probably the Charlo Mazudia fight. I think my understanding is that fight's a super middleweight. I could be wrong here. I don't see that ending well for Cohen. He is too brave for his own good a lot of the time, but I feel like he makes 154 and does a really good job there. I just think super middleweight's probably not his, his area, but we'll see. We'll see. He's certainly, super tough. So hopefully he can give a really good account of himself there and spring an upset, but I don't see that one. The main event, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of questions. Like, what has Errol Spence got left? That's the biggest question. He got outclassed by Crawford, obviously, but that's no shame. But, he just looked a couple of steps behind there and obviously suffered that horrific car crash and, being out of the ring for 3 years. Is that, I don't know. It's an interesting fight because we don't know what they've got left rather than both these guys are at their peak. I don't know what to expect there. So let's see.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Cohen, sort of what you hinted at too. But like, there's two ways to look at that fight, and the one is probably the first one is the one I'm going to go with, and probably yourself, Matt, and most people listening is, it's a rocky moment. Cohen's seemingly been plucked from obscurity, at least on the global stage, and given this absolutely massive opportunity. He's going up 2 weight classes. If he wins, it'd be absolutely incredible. We'll go down in sporting history in this country as one of the biggest upsets ever.
Absolutely.
So that's how I'll choose to look at it. But if I'm an American boxing fan in Houston and I'm a fan of Charlo, I'm box wrecking Cohen Mazudia. I'm going, who the hell is this guy? He has no globally recognizable name, and he fights at 154. Charlo's going to punch the absolute piss out of him easily.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I think, look, at the end of the day,
two ways you can look at it. If we're being honest,
there certainly are. Look, good on Cohen for taking the opportunity. I say, look, there's no pressure on Cohen, so that's the way to probably correctly look at it. There's no pressure on him. Whatever account he gives of himself, he can go back to 154 or 160 if needs be and still continue doing what he's doing. He's a great fighter to watch domestically. I feel like this is probably just, too big a step. But like, if he's getting paid well for it, mate, that's why these guys fight. So hopefully he is. And, if he can spring the upset, well, yeah, suddenly the world's his oyster. So.
Yeah, mate, we'll all be behind him. Imagine if he wins. Like, that would be, what a moment. That would be unbelievable. But interestingly enough too, Matt, I thought it was worth noting, Paulo's opponent, Luis Antonio Tejeda, actually fought, where was it? I did write this down. Richard Rivera, Popeye, who just fought Ben Whittaker in 2024 and won a majority decision over 8 rounds over him in the Dominican Republic. So there's a little bit of crossover. Like Paulo, I've been speaking to Brendan Bradford every time he comes on the pod about this. Like, we so badly would love to see Conor Wallace and Paulo Acuso. Like just from a fan's perspective, like, it's probably really hard, the mechanics of the sport and stuff and promotional ties and, IBF ratings and all that sort of stuff to actually make happen. But just as a tear up, I would love to see that fight. So that sort of puts Paulo into that mix with sort of a common opponent if he can do it impressively. But that's probably the fight I look forward to the most. All right, guys, and that was my chat with Matt Clark. Now, apologies for the abrupt ending. There were about another 3.5-4 minutes after the audio and video just cut out there. But as we found out at the start of the chat, Matt was actually driving to the airport to pick up a team member of Taylor Jensen's for the fights this Friday. And I think what happened is when the audio and the video uploads as you record separately, so on Matt's device and also on my device, and then I put it all together in the edit. So I think what's happened is as he got to the airport, there was a problem with getting the upload in time. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm no bloody computer genius, but yeah, I think that's what happened. But all you missed essentially was I just asked Matt about one more fight, which was the Floyd Mass and David Nyika fight coming up in early August over in New Zealand, which is an absolute banger. But we'll obviously talk about that fight much more on the pod later this month and, of course, in August. So that's all that was missed there, guys. And then we just wrapped it up, and I thanked Matt for being such a top bloke and telling him how much fun I had chatting to him, which was absolutely the truth. How awesome is Matt? What a guy. I can definitely guarantee it will not be another 44 episodes before I get Matt back on the pod, because that was too much fun. Why I waited 4 years to get him back on, I have no idea. But we did it today, and it was awesome. And honestly, guys, Matt is one of the best people. I've actually met Matt in real life a couple of times, as we sort of alluded to earlier in the pod, and he's seriously just like the nicest, the best guy. Like, we when you want to meet people in your favorite sport, you hope they're like Matt, like just a gentleman, grouse bloke, funny as hell, loves boxing. Like the enthusiasm and the passion he has for the sport is so infectious, and it's just so much fun to chat to him. So yeah, we'll definitely be ringing the Matt Clark bell sooner rather than later, that's for sure. So shout out to Matt, and thank you again. I know he's got a super busy week this week, so we got him on the way to the airport, so obviously we couldn't record the video. So I just made that graphic for the YouTube version just so that there was something to look at rather than a black screen. But I thought all things considered, I've never recorded with a moving target literally before. So I think it actually came off pretty well. We lost the 3 or 4 minutes at the end, but all things considered, I think that's a massive win. So next time we speak to Matt, I'll make sure it's not during a really busy fight week where he's got a little bit more time. But I thank him for making himself available. And guys, as always, I will include the links to follow along with Matt personally via his Twitter account and his Instagram account. And if you do so, you'll be following along with one of the bloody good blokes of Aussie boxing. So get on board. So guys, something to address just quickly. I did say on the back of the last episode of the podcast that I was going to do a hit out solo version of the pod after the Liam Paro history-making IBF World Welterweight title victory. So that obviously did not happen. Now, I had to work super late the next day. I got home and I just couldn't be stuffed. So by the time it was actually Friday, I was like, you know what? Every cat and their dog's already spoken about this. I'm literally just going to be repeating what multiple other people have already said. And as I've sort of hinted at before, I don't really get fired up to do the solo ones. I mean, the solo ones I've done in the past, I guess if it's like straight after the fights, and the enthusiasm's high, I'll jump on. But to be honest, man, I don't know. I don't feel fully comfortable just talking to myself. I'd rather have a chat to someone. So, yeah, I did say I was going to do one. I did have full intentions of doing it. If I didn't work real late on the Thursday, I probably would have. But I mean, look, I'm guessing not that many people care because, to be honest, like with the numbers, all things considered, the solo ones are by far the lowest listened to and lowest viewed for sure. So, yeah, I don't think it's a massive... Some people are like really good, and I have all the respect in the world for them that can do that solo stuff. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't think I'm good at it, and I don't really enjoy it that much. Like I said, unless I do it after the fight and the enthusiasm's super high, but most of the time if I'm watching the fights, man, I'm having a couple of beers and a laugh at the same time. So, yeah, might not bench this solo hitouts forever, but I would imagine for the time being, I think I'll bench the regularity of the hitouts. They definitely serve a purpose, and I do want to get better and more comfortable at doing them, but for the time being, might shelve them a little bit. So, guys, what's going on with the next pod? So let's have a look. As you know, in these outros, we like to do planning in real time. This is a look behind the curtain. Just finish one and then figure out something else for the next one. So what have we got coming up? Obviously, at the end of the month, we've got as we spoke about, the biggest and best fight card ever in the history of Australian boxing, according to No Limit and Main Event pay-per-view with the Tszyu, Errol Spence. Look, I'm not going to lie. It's a great card. Is it the best ever? I have no idea, and I don't really care. I don't know why everyone always wants to rank everything. Everything has to be ranked. Who gives a stuff? It's a friggin' awesome fight card, and we're pumped up for it. So that's good enough for me. But yeah, so we've got a fair bit going on. I definitely want to do an episode with a guest be the week of the fight, and I also want to do a reaction with maybe the same guest or a different guest after. So that'll be towards the end of the month. For those two, I want to try and get in between then another one. I'm just looking at the schedule. There isn't actually a ton of stuff going on in July. Maybe there's Anthony Joshua fight, but that's the same day, and a Christian Prenga, it's the same day as a Tszyu fight. Is there anything in between? I'm not sure. I'll have to really dive deep on BoxRec, but it could be a perfect time. I've hinted at possibly doing a little bit of a different type of pod, which is basketball NBL broadcast related. A little bit of a exploratory, is that the word? Just an exploration of ideas, because all I've ever heard on this pod from people that would know, and I respect their opinions about boxing pay-per-views in this country and why it can't grow, the overwhelming feedback I'm receiving, that I'm interpreting, I should say, is people are saying this is the only way it can work. There are no other options. And I just flat out don't believe that. I don't believe that's true. I think there is other ways. But for whatever reason, the powers that be and the people in charge don't want to try them. They don't want to explore them. And I don't know why they wouldn't. Maybe this way is just too easy and too profitable. Do they actually have genuine intentions of growing the sport? I don't know. These are all questions that I would love to find out. So that'll actually probably, I haven't recorded this episode that I'm talking about yet, but I have been in contact with the person, and that could work out really well. Okay, here's the plan. Hopefully I'll be able to drop that episode, which won't actually be about the current boxing schedule, but it's still boxing adjacent, and I think pretty damn interesting. Something a bit different too. I'm really pumped for it. That'll be mid-month, most likely, and then we'll jump on at the end, fight week, Tszyu Spence, and then a post-fight show as well. Maybe with the same guest, maybe with a different guest. So that'll be the plan for the month, guys. So we still should be punching out 3, if not 4 episodes this month, which I've been happy. So far, I've kept the consistency, which has been good, but we're only halfway through the year, so I've got the rest of the year to go, but fingers crossed, we'll see how we go. So, guys, geez, I'm talking a lot in these outros, eh? If you want to get in contact with me, you can throw me a tweet at delivery_man2. If you want to email me, you can send an email to the pod at tuscpod@gmail.com. That's tuskpod@gmail.com. Also got the Instagram page and the YouTube channel, guys. That's both at tuskpod if you want to follow along there. So, guys, that will do us for another episode. Again, shout out to Matt Clark. What a guy. I had so much fun. And good luck to all the fighters competing on The Money Show, The Tasman Fighters next installment on Friday, the 10th of July, available on Stan Sport and UFC Fight Pass globally. Good luck to everyone competing, and hopefully the show goes off well. It looks like it's going to be a great success. So guys, that was a ton of fun. Thanks so much for listening, watching, supporting. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the fights, and I'll chat to you later.
Road less travel may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake up call, laughing through the window frame.